Welcome to the Benchwarmers podcast. This will be episode 3. I am, as always, Casey Coggins, here with Alvin Hebert.
Hello.
And Andrew Lara.
Howdy.
So, for our episode 3 podcast, we're going to just dive into some of this last week's games. Week 1 in the NFL, some surprises, some blowouts. And then we'll go into a little preview of Week 2 and some of the premier games that we see on the docket for the NFL. So, might as well start on the first game of the season. The defending Super Bowl champion Patriots getting pretty much blown out by the Chiefs, which was a shocker to most. I picked the Chiefs to win, just didn't see it happening in that kind of fashion.
That just made our picks last episode look a whole lot shaky.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, because y'all had the Patriots in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
well,
winning the AFC and everything.
Yeah.
Come out.
Because, I think they're good, but I didn't think I think last year's team without Gronk is better than this year's team, and especially with no Julian Edelman, it kind of just changes the whole outlook. Because, looking at their receivers and their defense, Philip Dorsett had to go into the game late, and he's been with the team. He had been with the team like 3 days. Brandon Cooks, who's a new addition. Danny Amendola got hurt
again.
Yeah, so they were they had to adjust so much offensively and defensively. They just could not keep up with the Chiefs' new look offense, where they're actually spreading out the team.
Alex Smith throwing deep.
Yeah,
wide receivers getting touchdowns.
Yeah, and so it was kind of an eye-opening first game for how good the Chiefs could be. I thought they were going to contend in the division with the Raiders, but after watching that game, I see them winning the division because they look legit after playing the Patriots, and I know that's just week 1.
Granted, we haven't really seen them face an actual defense.
If they're comfortable doing stuff like that, we know that they can do it. And if they need to revert down to the check down master, aka Alex Smith, they can. They have Tyreek Hill on the outside, who just blows the top off of a defense, and with the running game and Kareem Hunt, as long as he stays healthy, that defense can hold their own. Marcus Peters might be the best cover corner in the league. Justin Houston started looking like himself again.
But they did lose Barry, though.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and he was huge against them. I think he went down with like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Gronk was just not heard of in the game because Barry was covering him.
Shut it down.
Yeah, there was a couple plays where Gronk had the ball in his hands and just dropped it. The ball moved a little bit. There was that one touchdown pass over the middle that he caught and was ruled a touchdown, but review showed otherwise. I'm not really worried about the Pats. They are the Patriots, and it is Bill Belichick, and it is Tom Brady, and
the division ain't strong at all.
Yeah, and they have 15 more games to kind of right the ship for the postseason, and the Chiefs are just a bad matchup for them, like they have been. The previous time they played was when everybody was like, oh, well, that's the end of the Patriots dynasty, like 3 years ago, and they were on to Cincinnati, and then they won the Super Bowl that year, but they got blown out by the Chiefs, and that was a worse Chiefs team than this is. But with Eric Berry getting hurt, we'll see how the Chiefs go forward with that. So, it was a fun opening kickoff to the NFL season.
The league just punched in the mouth of that game.
Yeah, people talking Patriots going
undefeated,
16-0. That gets knocked off first game. I think it opens people's eyes that the Patriots, they have some holes. They have some weaknesses this year. Their corners aren't as good as they have been in the past. There's no more. They still have Malcolm Butler. They signed another corner, I believe, in the off season, but
Gilmore from
Stephen Gilmore. But I don't remember hearing his name much in that game. And they're just, they don't have a pass rush. If Dante Hightower's hurt for an extended period of time, he's their anchor of their defense. They don't have Ninkovic anymore. He retired. There's no defensive ends. Jamie Collins, Chandler Jones. So they're putting a lot of pressure on Tom Brady. And, he hasn't won a Super Bowl with a bad defense. And this is bad defense.
Well, Gillislee, he looked good running the ball for them.
Yeah, he had a really good game. I think he had 50-something yards, maybe a little more than that. And that, he's their goal line back. He scored his 3 touchdowns.
And he was in a passing downs also.
Yeah, with a total of 5 yards, got 3 touchdowns. So it'll be interesting to see the adjustments that old wise one Belichick makes. So going from the Thursday night game to Sunday.
I just want to say nothing personal, but fuck Kareem Hunt. You're the reason why I lost fantasy.
Yeah, you're welcome for that.
Killed a lot of fantasy teams that week.
Yeah. I don't have our league doesn't have something like that. Our league doesn't have super crazy scoring. It had pretty standard scoring, and he put up 46.5 points, 44.5 points, something about that.
Yeah, it was 46.
If he didn't do that, it would have been a closer matchup. But no.
Yeah, in my other league, points are a little higher. He put up 60, and he did that on the Patriots on opening week with all the excitement that the Patriots had getting their rings and celebrating the Super Bowl win.
Oh, and a side note, after week 1, Alex Smith is has the most passing yards of 368.
Which I think might be the first time in his career that he's led the league in passing yards at any point in the season. I've liked Alex Smith even since he was a rookie. He had a rough go of it at the beginning of his career because I think his first 7 seasons in the league, he had 7 different offensive coordinators. And then, Harbaugh gets there, and they go to the NFC Championship game, and then he gets taken out and has goes into the concussion protocol and loses his job because of the concussion to Kaepernick, and then goes on to the Chiefs and has just won games. Like their winning percentage in the last 4 years has been one of the tops in the league.
Well, him and Andy Reid too.
Yeah.
Solidifying the culture.
And what really surprised me, I think, the most out of that game, looking back at it, is when I think the Patriots were up 10 or something like that towards the end of the first half. And, everybody knocks Andy Reid for his time management, and he'll take a timeout with like 8 minutes to go on a first down in the second quarter. And so he uses his timeouts inefficiently, and so when he needs them, he doesn't have them. And towards the end of the first half, Chiefs got the ball back. They had 2 timeouts left with, their 2-minute drive to go and score a touchdown. I'm pretty sure they scored. That was when Kareem Hunt scored the touchdown on a little flat pass from the 2-yard line.
Well, you even heard from the announcers, they were saying that the Patriots was going to start running away with the game and stuff.
Well, yeah, it was. Like it looked like it. First play of the Chiefs season, they handed off to Kareem Hunt, his first carry of his career. He fumbles it, loses the fumble, and that's when the Patriots go down, and that's the Gronk pass that I alluded to. He looks like they score another touchdown. And they're just gonna, blow them out of the water, and then the review overturned the call, and they had to settle for a field goal. It changed the game. Actually, no, they went for it on 4th down. They didn't even kick a field goal. They went for it on 4th and 1, and instead of letting QB sneak master Tom Brady, who I don't think has ever failed on a QB sneak, they hand it off and get stuffed. And they did that twice that game, which was really weird. They had 2 4th and shorts. Tom Brady, who I just said, just a great QB sneak artist, and they hand the ball off to a new running back in the scheme, and they get stuffed 2 times. So it's that turn of events where Gronk had dropped the pass, it hit the ground, and getting stopped on 4th down kept the Chiefs in the game. And then in the second half, they just ran away with it, pretty much literally with Kareem Hunt. So, I mean, Chiefs look scary as long as Kareem Hunt doesn't fumble again, which, you know, he's fumbled twice in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty unbelievable stat. Well, trying to go back to Sunday, like I did earlier, we had a pretty good slate of games on Sunday. The Texas teams, there were some good, and there were some bad, and then there were some ugly, and then there were some surprises. But I want to go, with everything going on in Houston, I want to start with the Texans and the Jags. And they had, J.J. Watt coming out of the tunnel with the Texas flag, getting the crowd into it, super loud, super positive, like
all the hypest interest ever.
Yeah, they were ready to get this game going, and Houston has been picked to win the division and make the playoffs by a lot of people. And their defense was number 1 in the league last year, and
just no, I wasn't one of those people.
Neither was I.
Reminder.
Yeah, neither was I.
I was.
Were you?
Yeah, I was.
The quiet one in the corner here.
But then they just got punched in the mouth by Jacksonville, which, seeing Jacksonville do that, I don't know if it was Texans and Tom Savage being that bad.
Tom Savage being real bad.
Or Jacksonville being better than a lot of teams or people thought.
They did that with Allen Robinson too.
Yeah, Allen Robinson is out for the season now on one of the first plays of the game. And then they had the fumble, the 58-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. But really the only thing I wanted to get to in this game was the debut of Deshaun Watson. It happened a lot earlier than I thought it would. I thought it would get to week 3 or 4 and them having to be 0-2, 0-3, maybe 1-2, somewhere in that range of, not looking very good. And they didn't look very good, just right off the start offensively. And so they start the third quarter with Deshaun Watson, and he leads them right down the field and scores a touchdown, which happened to be their only touchdown of the game.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean he looked poised. He looked ready for the moment. He was accurate. He made plays with his feet. There was a play where he looked like he was going to get sacked. He escaped it, got out into the flat, and I think either rushed for 2 yards or was able to try to make a throw a ball, but instead of getting sacked, that's a huge deal. So he looks like he should be the starting quarterback for the Texans the rest of the season. And I think as long as Bill O'Brien doesn't flip-flop around like he's been known to do, which I think some of it had to do with injuries, but that was what a lot of people were alluding to earlier today that I saw on Twitter is, he's changed quarterbacks like 58 different times.
Change clothes.
He Ryan Mallett had a bad game, and then he went to Brian Hoyer, and then Brian Hoyer had a bad game, and he went to T.J. Yates, and T.J. Yates got hurt, so he went back to Ryan Mallett, and Ryan Mallett got hurt, so he went back to Brian Hoyer, and this is all in 6 weeks. So as long as he just sticks to it, allows Deshaun Watson to just, win football games, which is all that guy has done
Well, I think now he has like no choice but to stick with him. Like you can't just put in your young quarterback and then he has a bad game or a bad half and you pull him out. Like I think that will mess up.
That'll mess with the kid.
that'll mess with
See,
the psyche.
that's what you hope doesn't happen, but you see it all the time. I mean,
It is soon. You would have wished they waited longer, had more patience, like you said, week 3 or 4, just so that you could put the kid in, you could let him play out the rest of the year. Because now this is week 1. If this kid doesn't turn out the way you hoped for, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pull him in week 10?
Yeah, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or you can't even pull him like he has like a bad first half. This because I mean he's going to start week 2, and say he has like a bad first half. Like
You're gonna put too much.
sit
You're
him?
gonna put more pressure on him than what is needed. What is
Yeah.
needed.
yeah.
I mean, just face it. Like the Texans, everybody played bad. Like their defense played horrible. I mean, Lamar Miller had an okay game. DeAndre Hopkins had an okay game after Deshaun Watson came in. Other than that, they had like nobody else doing anything.
I think they needed that week 1 game. You know, it's a long season, and many times you see a team get, you know, like with the Patriots, they get punched in the mouth, and then they're like, okay, well, we didn't think, or we thought we were better than what we are right now. Like we have a lot to improve and a lot to work on and a lot of adjustments to make. And so I think Bill O'Brien's, you know, a pretty good coach. You know, even talking about all the quarterback changes and the lack of quarterback talent that he's really had at Houston. He still made the playoffs, I think, 2 years.
Well, let's not forget, they decided to go and sign Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, I mean, they decided to put themselves in the quarterback situation because Bill O'Brien is supposed to be a quarterback whisperer, but I mean, he made the playoffs with Brock Osweiler last season, even though like, you know, being in Texas, like we hear and see a lot of Texans coverage. And there are a lot of Texans fans. And you hear Texans fans just like bench him, like take him out of the game, like put in Tom Savage. We want Tom Savage. Like Brock was supposed to be benched for Tom Savage, and who did show up in a couple games. I think they had to start him in one game last season.
Well, that's just Texans in general. That Texans as in like citizens of Texas. When we see something we don't like, especially when it comes to football, we're yelling, "Put the next one in."
Yeah,
And
but
then with them, they would have said anybody's name that was behind Brock Osweiler.
I mean, there's one thing with, you know, Brock being bad. I think he was up near the top of the league in interceptions. And had one of the lowest QBRs in the league, and he wasn't very good.
the worst.
And so I understand from that perspective, like he was really bad, but they still, just speaking of Bill O'Brien's coaching ability, with him being that bad, like I mean, defense did step up huge last season, and the year before, pretty much any year J.J. Watt's healthy, they have a chance to win games. But their defense is
Well, they were good last year,
outstanding.
and J.J. Watt wasn't healthy the full season.
Yeah.
They just need an offense that can keep them off the field for long enough to get a
Yeah,
break.
and so I think sticking with Deshaun Watson, it'll give, I think, Bill O'Brien his first quarterback who won't turn the ball over.
A competent quarterback.
Won't. Well, I mean, they're all competent quarterbacks. I mean, they're NFL players. Like, they're NFL quarterbacks. They are good enough to be NFL quarterbacks.
So Mark Sanchez is a competent quarterback.
Yeah.
The butt fumble.
Butt fumble.
Man.
Hey,
the
there's
hot
no
dog.
he can't.
The hot dog on the bench.
I mean,
Hey,
that could have happened to anybody. He was running for his life.
But it
and-
didn't. It happened to
And
him.
he slipped, and then he got...
Oh, he slipped. Whoops.
Yeah, I mean, it could have happened to anybody, but it happened to Mark Sanchez. He's never going to live that down.
That's what happens when you go with GQ.
But I mean, like, I'm one of the biggest, let's say, haters of Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel. But they were NFL quarterbacks. I don't knock their ability to be quarterbacks, but sometimes you just have issues. Like, you have to adapt to quarterback strengths and weaknesses. So Tim Tebow, if you listen to Skip Bayless talk about it, it's like Jesus coming back for Easter.
Skip Bayless and his love for Tim Tebow.
Yeah, but he won 8 straight games and won in overtime in Pittsburgh. I mean, his numbers were awful, but what they did is they adapted to what he was good at. They started
didn't
reading
adapt to anything. That defense kept them in the game.
This was before the defense became the defense that we know it as now, because this is before Aqib Talib signed. This was, I think, T.J. Ward's rookie year.
But if you look at the scores of those games, those were like low scoring games.
But
But
they controlled the ball because they led the league in rushing. Mark Sanchez went to 2 AFC Championship games because they led the league in rushing those 2 seasons, and they had a good defense. So when you adapt, like, they're NFL quarterbacks. They're not bad quarterbacks, but some panic a little quicker than others. Like, watch Aaron Rodgers play, and the dude is dancing around in the pocket, and he looks like he's under control the entire time. He knows exactly where everybody is on the field, and he makes just some unbelievable throws, but he doesn't just throw it the first second he feels pressure. That's why he's the best quarterback in the league. He has the ability to extend plays. He can make every throw on the field, but he has the ability to just sense the pressure, stay calm in the moment, and make the right throw. He threw an interception. I think he threw a pick 6, and everybody was like blown away that he threw an interception, because that's just who he is. Like, at home in Lambeau, he went like 3 seasons without throwing an interception. So that's where the guys like Brock Osweiler and Tom Savage and Brian Hoyer and all the Texans quarterbacks, that's what separates them from getting to that next level. So you have to, Bill O'Brien, you just have to work around the weaknesses of these guys. And I think with Deshaun Watson, there are less weaknesses and more strengths to build around. So it'll be, they got the Bengals in week 2. And then the Bengals just laid a goose egg against the Ravens, turning the ball over 5 times, I think, total.
3 picks in the first half?
4 interceptions. Or 3 picks.
3 in the first half.
Yeah, but I think there were 5 total turnovers. And they just looked bad. So we'll see how Deshaun looks in week 2 and the adjustments that the Texans make.
So now, you want to talk about your Lions next?
Well, I was going to let Andrew jump up on his pedestal and shout from the mountaintops about the Cowboys.
We're going to the Super Bowl.
We them boys. Just showed up, and Giants was just, I don't know. They were what I expected them to be.
It was a statement win just for the fact that Eli is part owner of the AT&T Stadium. How many times has he beat the Cowboys at home?
Oh, I think he's 8. No,
he owns us.
He won.
Yeah. So just getting that win over the Giants, it felt great.
I mean, it was the only team that Dak hadn't beaten that he's played.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost to them twice last season, and we should have won them at home last year if Williams would have ran outside. you saw he ran.
Terrence
Williams
ran
outside this game, right?
Yeah, that's what they practice on.
I mean, even if he would have gotten out of bounds, there were still things that needed to happen for the Cowboys to pull out that game.
Butterfly effect, dude. If it happened, a different string of events could have happened.
It could have happened.
And we could have won, and we would have gone to the Super Bowl.
But I think having Zeke that game helped a lot. Like, just like the morale of the team was just like.
It was hype.
Yeah, it was hype. And then you got Jason Witten breaking the record that game for the most receiving yards as a Cowboy. Like, there was just like a whole bunch of stuff like
I think
falling into the
he
Cowboys.
scored the only touchdown that they had.
I think so.
Yeah. And then, I mean, Zeke still ran for over 100 yards. Dak, he still looked accurate, and, like, I don't think he's going to have a sophomore slump this year. I don't know. They just got, like, the right personnel, the Cowboys, and...
Well, it's about time.
I know there's all those Cowboy haters out there that was ready to talk shit. They was ready. They was ready, but nah, not today.
You gotta come back maybe next week.
Cause I already know, watching, like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp and everybody talking about the Giants, this and all that stuff, and the Giants got a horrible O-line. Like, you saw that game. Like, Cowboys are actually putting pressure on them.
Yeah.
Which I was like, all right, this is...
Cowboys are getting sacks.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, and it wasn't even, like, their first round draft pick, Taco, wasn't even, there was no Taco time.
Yeah, it was all Lawrence. Lawrence putting pressure on him. And then...
Man, Sean Lee was all over the field.
Sean Lee, beast again.
That's what he does. If he can stay on the field, that's what he does.
But Orlando Scandrick got hurt, so he'll be out. They're hoping that they can get him back for week 3, so just missing a week.
Yeah.
And where was Brandon Marshall?
It was a broken hand, right?
Broken.
Fractured, I think.
Yeah, he had a fracture in his hand.
Yeah.
If I could put a glove on it.
Brandon Marshall didn't get a catch until like 16 seconds left in the game. He almost went catchless.
And this was without like Jordan Lewis, who was I think one of the steals in the draft.
Yeah, I mean I don't really remember hearing Jalen Smith's name, so it's like it wasn't like the defense really had a great game, but
they had a good enough game.
Which is kind of crazy to say, because even though I don't think they had a great game, the Giants couldn't put points on the board. They couldn't move the ball. But I think it was more that
their best player was out.
Yeah, they looked like they didn't know what they were doing on offense.
Well, they got no O-line
and
no run game.
Yeah, so I mean, you very rarely have a good running game with no O-line. Those two go hand in hand. I mean, the best backs in the league, you need to be able to block people for them to use their vision, like use their jump cuts, and like Pittsburgh has a really good offensive line. Dallas has the best offensive line in the league. Minnesota, when they had Adrian Peterson, like they had a pretty good O-line.
Well, now they're talking about the Eagles' O-line this year is supposed to be the best in the league.
Yeah, but I don't think they really... Who's their running back right now?
LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think they have a running back that's going to get, 1,400 yards, and I don't think they have their offensive scheme isn't based on running first. It's, using LeGarrette Blount to pound out 3 or 4 yards to get them in 2nd and 6, and then using Darren Sproles and the new weapons that Carson Wentz has to run like play actions and little quick hitters. And so I think it's more they have a scheme to utilize their offensive line in a different way than a lot of teams would when they have that kind of offensive line. Because, if you have a top 5 offensive lineman in the league, you either want your quarterback to just sit there in the pocket and just start finding receivers because he has the time, and then utilize the run game as an option to help the pass, or you pound the rock like the Cowboys do and wear down the defense that way.
Control the time of possession.
Yeah. I think actually the Eagles led the league in time of possession last year, which is I think what I heard when I was flipping around channels and watching that game a little bit. I mean, the Redskins didn't really put up much of a fight. I mean, they
Look. You're starting to segue
Yeah.
onto the wrong side here.
Yeah.
We want to keep it on the Cowboys. All right. And
I was like,
just
wait.
to let you know, for Cowboys having a good game, the defense held the Giants to only 230 something yards that game. I was like,
yeah.
if you can hold them down to that, your defense had a pretty.
But that's where it comes down to question: is it good defense or is it just bad offense?
I mean,
Because it could play both parts.
I know they was without Odell, but you have Brandon Marshall, and he was just non-existent that game. I know their O-line is horrible.
It's his 1 year with them. He's 35 now?
Yeah, 33, 35.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was brought in to be help.
A linchpin.
He's not the dude.
I know he's not the dude, but I mean, come on, his skills and everything like that, and our secondary ain't no cream of the crop, like steak prime or anything like that. We ain't got no primetime Deion Sanders on that team, you know what I mean? I figured he would have gotten more catches than one at 16 seconds left in the game.
How many targets did he have?
I think he had 6 or 7 targets.
I mean, they threw.
I'll have to check that.
I with talking about the defense and the Giants only having 233 total yards, they only ran 53 plays to the Cowboys 71, and they had the ball for 25, a little less than 26 minutes. So
the Giants had it for 26 minutes.
Yeah, so they had the ball 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes than the Cowboys did.
But that just shows the Cowboys, they pound a rock, so we control time of possession. So that's how
what really hurt, I think, the Giants is the fact that they ran the ball 12 times out of their 53 plays, and they got 35 yards.
Sucks to suck.
So
Sad.
And then the Cowboys have the offensive line and they have Zeke, so their stats are 31 rushing attempts for 129 yards, averaging 4 yards a rush. So as good as the Cowboys defense did look, I feel like the Giants looked that bad and the Cowboys offense did what they did last year. That game should have been 35-3. Dak Prescott just could not find the range. There was a time where they got to the first and goal situation and they threw to Dez 3 straight times.
And he just overthrew.
But he just could not. Dez was in position 2 of those 3 plays, and Dak just missed the throw.
Just hit him in the numbers and it would have been.
Yeah. So it just. And Dak didn't look as sharp, which is really scary going forward for the rest of the NFC East and the rest of the NFC. Is if that's the Cowboys, because the Giants' defense isn't bad. The Giants' defense is a top 10 defense in the league, and they got manhandled by the Cowboys. And if Dak would have been as good as he was last year, it would have been a massacre.
Oh, yeah.
So going forward, they have the Broncos, so another tough defense. I think it's in Denver at Mile High, so that's going to be another little piece of adversity to deal with. But if Dak Prescott plays the way he can, Trevor Siemian looked really good last night against the Chargers. I think this might be that might be the best game of Week 2, but we'll get a little deeper into the Week 2 games after we talk about my Lions, who had a little bit of a rough start. Matthew Stafford's first pass of the season was a pick 6. So and they were playing the Cardinals, who I thought were going to put up a much bigger fight than I feel like they did.
Especially with that defense.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is one of the top in the league, and with Matthew and Peterson and their whole defense being so athletic.
They got Chandler Jones, right?
They got Chandler Jones. They were looking pretty good all the way through the first half. And then,
Johnson goes down.
well,
Oh,
yeah,
man. Out, what, 3 months, they said?
Is it?
2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months?
Yeah, with
I know that
wrist surgery.
Is he going to do the wrist surgery?
They did it today.
Oh, okay. Well, because now, I mean, now you got to rely on Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald to carry the offense. But
I mean, they have
who they have at running back?
they have Andre Ellington, and Andrew told me they picked up Chris Johnson again, who they had previously. I mean, they don't have David Johnson in the backfield anymore, which it hurts all those fantasy owners who drafted him.
First overall.
Yeah, I mean,
number one.
if he was healthy, he was going to be the stud of this fantasy league, or in all fantasy leagues. But he got hurt. The Cardinals, it was 10-9 at half, and the Lions really hadn't done much offensively. And then, starting the third quarter, the Cardinals come out and pound the ball down the field and score a touchdown. And so they were up 17-9. And then from there, that's when the Lions finally decided to play. And it's like, oh, fourth quarter again. Which is, I guess, the only time they like playing from last season, because they put up 20 points in the fourth quarter. And Kenny Galladay, the guy that I had been hearing about all preseason, the guy that I was telling y'all about when in our first podcast when we were talking about fantasy sleepers. He's not as good, of course, but he fills that Calvin Johnson role. Just let him run the deep outs, the deep routes, the jump ball routes, and he
didn't have like mind blowing like stats or anything, but he did get the 2 touchdowns for them.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you want, with Marvin Jones and Golden Tate and Theo Riddick and Abdullah and Eric Ebron, the offensive weapons are there. But what they didn't have last season is they didn't have somebody that they could just let run fly routes. They didn't have a guy that runs routes like AJ Green or Julio Jones, who's just physically kind of an imposing guy. Kenny Galladay, not as good as those guys as a whole as far as route running and being able to run after catch, but as far as being a big physical receiver to run down the field and be able to get the safety help over the top and allow a slant to Golden Tate, who usually leads the league in yards after catch. It gives him more room to work once he catches the ball. Same thing with Marvin Jones. I really liked what I saw out of the Lions offense, even though their first half was kind of oh, well, here we go again kind of first half. Like I didn't really like their play calling.
You should be used to this, though.
Yeah, and I didn't really like the play calling in the first half. I thought they had some shots that they could have taken, but they did, little bubble screens and check downs. And, I mean, Stafford didn't turn the ball over after that first interception on his first pass. But it was, Golden Tate, 10 receptions, 107 yards. And Kenny Galladay, who had 4 receptions for 69 yards. So, offensively, they put up 35 points, and I still think there's room for them to grow.
Yeah, their run game wasn't
impressive. And their run game isn't going to be an impressive run game, but it needs to be good enough for defenses to have to respect it, giving Matthew Stafford some more room. But what really impressed me was that defense. They got a couple interceptions, and they were flying all over the field, making great plays on the ball, getting past deflections. They stopped David Johnson while he was in the game from doing anything. So it was really impressive to watch the Lions. I think they had one of the top 5 performances out of any team in week 1. So I like what I see and hope that it goes forward, because they have the Vikings and the Packers in the division, so their division is going to be pretty tough. So they need to continue to improve and get better as the year goes on.
Shit, everybody said the Bears won. Week one.
And the Packers and the Vikings looked really good. Vikings defense, didn't allow the Saints to score a touchdown until like a minute and a half in the fourth quarter. And the Saints offense is, usually one of the tops in the league.
Well, their passing is.
What did y'all think about Adrian Peterson returning to Minnesota?
He returned? I didn't notice.
Yeah,
I don't know what Sean Payton was thinking, man. He only gave him 9 carries?
Six carries. He had 6 carries. His first carry went for 10 yards, and it was like, oh man, that looks like the Adrian Peterson of, at least 2 years ago. He might not be able to carry the ball 30, 35 times anymore, but Sean Payton needs to get his act together.
With that setting, you're in Minnesota. You got Adrian Peterson. Just give it to him, man.
The Vikings have a very good defense, but you need to run the ball more. You signed him, and you kept Mark Ingram, and you've made the improvements to the offensive line to become a more balanced team.
And then you weren't balanced at all.
Yeah, you didn't run the ball as much as you should have. So it was.
And they didn't have Peterson in any of the goal line plays that they had.
Yeah, the Saints had one of the most disappointing Week 1 games, I think, out of the NFL. They looked flat. The defense held up for, a quarter and a half.
Man, they made Sam Bradford look legit.
Sam Bradford led the league in completion percentage last year with an NFL record, 71.6% of his passes completed. And he did what he needed to do last year while still learning the offense, because he got traded for just on a whim because of what happened to Teddy Bridgewater. And Dalvin Cook looked good. Stephon Diggs looks like he's going to get back to being, an up-and-coming receiver.
Still got Kyle Rudolph.
And that defense is a legit defense.
Xavier Rhodes.
Yeah, they definitely have a pretty good team. And same thing with the Chiefs, with the Vikings. You have a good enough defense that keeps you in games as long as your quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. Sam Bradford and Alex Smith both don't turn the ball over. They are both known for checking the ball down, not throwing the ball past 5 yards. But both in Week 1 just threw that ball.
They were the top 3 quarterbacks that led in passing yards. The other one was Matt Ryan.
Yeah, so I think the Vikings, they looked really impressive. And then the Packers, what they did with Seattle. Seattle's offensive line is...
That's like New York Giants offense.
Holier than the Vatican City.
But that defense, everybody was talking about that defense, and Aaron Rodgers just chopping them up.
Yeah, they couldn't really get pressure on him, and when they did get pressure, like I said earlier, he doesn't...
Did the Packers even run the ball that game?
I don't know.
If they ran the ball, I don't even know who was their running back.
Yeah, you got me there.
Ty Montgomery. What am I talking about?
Ty Montgomery and who else? They have 2 running backs now. What I was saying earlier with Aaron Rodgers, and when you get pressure on him, he doesn't feel pressured. His pressures would get quarterbacks to throw a jump ball to Richard Sherman's guy, which allows Richard Sherman to lead the league in interceptions. Earl Thomas flies around the back line. So they pressure Aaron Rodgers, and he still finds a way to slide his feet, roll out of the pocket, kind of wait until the last second to make the throw, and just throws it on the money.
Relax.
Yeah, RELAX. They they scored 17 points, so it wasn't like they just like went out and just smashed the Seahawks. Scoring 17 points on the Seahawks in the manner in which they did it was still pretty impressive because the Seahawks scoring is at a premium. As long as you can get pressure on Russell Wilson, which I think a JV team could probably get pressure on Russell Wilson at this moment in time.
I don't know, man. They were looking really good. They looked pretty quick when they were trying to catch up to the D linemen.
Yeah, I guess it is just Ty Montgomery as their running back. I thought they had another guy that they had signed.
They probably drafted somebody, but
yeah, I did.
I mean, I think Ty Montgomery had a decent game.
Yeah, he had I think he had 19 carries and 66 yards. Is what I think I saw. But he had a good enough game, which is against the Seahawks. Good enough is pretty good. I was trying to find another word other than good to use, but just being average, like just an NFL average against the Seahawks defense is a win because they can turn you over, they can stop the run, they can stop the pass. They're probably the most complete defense in the league. So the Packers winning that game, even though it was only 17-9, that was pretty impressive.
I think when they play against the Niners this Sunday, I think they'll just unload on them.
Just get
their mojo back.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson is probably going to throw for 450.
Damn.
He's
run for another 120.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's going to have to throw the ball so he doesn't get hurt. And so he's probably just going to say, "Hut, catch the ball and just throw it down the field and just wait for Doug Baldwin to run underneath it."
Oh man, I think that would be a field day.
Yeah. So I mean, the 49ers defense did look pretty good in Week 1 against the Panthers, but Cam looked awful. He looked like he missed the preseason and was coming off of shoulder surgery.
Shit. McCaffrey was the one that was carrying the load.
McCaffrey got the ball the most out of anybody on the team, but he didn't really have an impressive game. Their offense didn't look very...
He was the only one that was producing.
Jonathan Stewart had a decent game. I mean, they ran the ball more times than anybody in Week 1.
But that defense...
I mean...
That interception by Kuechly...
Yeah, the Panthers' defense is going to keep them in games to allow them to just run the ball even if they're down. So, yeah, Week 1 in the books. Still a lot of season to go. So we can keep our postseason predictions and our Super Bowl predictions intact.
And don't be dropping and picking up on fantasy. It's just Week 1, guys.
There's no need to panic.
I won my game.
What are you trying to say?
Kareem Hunt
0-1 over here.
Oh,
Kareem Hunt smacked that ass.
Yeah, that's all he had. It was just Kareem Hunt.
That's all I needed.
45 point, to start off. All right, congratulations.
I mean, I scraped by. It would have been nice to get some contribution from Le'Veon, but I mean, I'll take.
But as soon as Sunday was over, I saw I get a alert Eddie Lacy's been dropped by a couple thousand people already. I was like, man, it's just Week 1.
Yeah, I know. Well, I guess yesterday would have been overreaction Monday.
Yeah.
But you can't make any moves in fantasy, so it's overreaction Tuesday for fantasy owners. But looking forward to Week 2 coming up. The Thursday night game is the Deshaun Watson debut as a starting quarterback.
Who they play?
The Bengals in Cincinnati. So if Deshaun Watson stays true to himself, and looks like he did against the Jags in the second half, and he had kind of that banged up ankle in Week 1. I can see, I don't see this game being a shootout in any manner.
Not at all.
I know the Bengals didn't score against the Ravens, but it was just 20-0. It wasn't Ravens just.
Well, it wasn't like the
Lit up
Rams
the score.
Colts game.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
nothing like that.
Yeah, so
And that Bengals defense is legit. Like
yeah, I mean,
it has been for the past couple of years now.
You know,
5 years maybe.
I mean, it's been legit. I mean, I think the entire time they've
Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, they've had Marvin Lewis. I think he was, the defensive coordinator for the Super Bowl winning Ravens in 2000. I mean, as long as they don't get flagged for stupid crap. Here's looking to you, Adam Jones and Vontaze Burfict. Even though I think Burfict might be suspended or.
I think he still is.
Yeah, so as long as
Andy Dalton, I mean, he does throw the ball, but throw it to your team.
Yeah, I mean, you have, you have this guy. His name's AJ Green.
Right.
The jerseys are a different color for a reason.
Yeah, he's a top 5 receiver in the league.
Tyler Eifert too.
Yeah, Tyler Eifert. Like, as long as those two guys stay healthy, you're just fine, Dalton. You don't need to force anything there. But yeah, I mean, that game's going to be like 17-14. And with both of them,
14, but who you got?
I think on the road you usually give the home team the 3. So I think I think the Bengals bounce back from their humiliating defeat, I would say. I mean, I think both teams suffered humiliating defeats, but one of these teams gets to play at home.
Well, this is Bengals played at home too against the Ravens.
Yeah, both teams played at home. Both teams sucked, but with Deshaun Watson starting for the first time, I don't see them just unleashing him offensively. He still needs to kind of get used to the speed and the size of the NFL. So I see him throwing a touchdown pass to Hopkins again. I see Lamar Miller having a better game than he did and probably getting into the end zone. But I see Dalton doing enough to get them more points than the Texans, and that's what you need to win. So I see the Bengals bouncing back. That's just Thursday night. Looking ahead to that, we got the Cowboys against the Broncos.
I think that's going to be like the legit test, like the start of our season.
Yeah, it's gonna be the real week 1.
Yeah, like that defense and we already know the offense that the Broncos have with Thomas. Like he could burn our cornerbacks.
I mean, he doesn't need to burn them. He's so big that it allows the quarterback to kind of have room for error. But C.J. Anderson and Jamal Charles, they looked really good. Their run game looks like it can help Simeon. And yeah, I think this might be the best game of the week because you have a team that won the Super Bowl a couple years ago and has one of the best defenses at home in Mile High, coming off of a good opening win.
Well, that was a nail-biting game. The Chargers and Broncos.
The Chargers had a chance to tie it. Yeah, the Chargers scored kind of late and had a chance to tie it towards the end. But I never felt like the Broncos were going to lose it. So I think this is going to be kind of a good stepping stone game for either team. I think whoever wins this game out of these two teams, I could see starting off 4-5-0. I don't have the schedules in front of me, so I don't know who the Broncos will be playing the next couple weeks. But this is the kind of game early in the season where it can propel you to starting off really well for the first half of the season.
So Broncos have Cowboys, Bills, and shit, what was that?
So essentially, the Broncos could start off 3-0, like
the Raiders.
Yeah, so they can start off 3-0.
They can start off 3-0 and then.
I mean, beating the Cowboys can kind of get them under control. That it wouldn't surprise me.
Everyone takes pleasure in beating the Cowboys.
Haters. That's right.
Yeah. So they got Cowboys, Bills, Raiders, Giants, Chargers, Chiefs. So given that if the Broncos show out against the Cowboys in this upcoming game. You know, maybe not just like blow them out 35-7 or something, but beat them 28-14, like 28-10, something like that, where they are able to maintain Zeke, you know, give Zeke his yards, but, you know, get a few 3-and-outs, control the game. If, you know, the Broncos win like that, I could see them going, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0 starting the season, even with Trevor Siemian, because it's Bills, Raiders, Giants, Chargers, and then they go
against the Chiefs.
At Chiefs. So I think the Cowboys and the Raiders, those are going to be the two games that might propel the Broncos into the playoffs, and you don't want to, you know, say something like that at this early in the season, because I don't know how many times I've seen teams start 5-6-0 and then just crumble after that. And somebody gets hurt and then they end up, you know, 8-8, 9-7, and miss the playoffs by a game. But, you know, there's a couple other good games this weekend too. The Vikings and Steelers. That's going to be.
I think that's going to be a defense game, especially Le'Veon Bell didn't do anything. Antonio Brown was just doing Antonio Brown things.
You know, I think
Antonio Brown just balled out. What did he put? 186 yards.
Yeah, just
with how bad. Like I think the Steelers looked, you know, pretty bad. It was 21-18 against the Browns, and Deshaun Kaiser had a pretty good game. So the Steelers
that defense,
the Steelers defense needs to step up, but Le'Veon Bell is, you know, a focal point of your offense, and he's going to be the one guy who helps you control time of possession, allows you to kind of help your defense. So if he can get going and, you know, run for 80, 90.
Well, this was the first time Le'Veon Bell played in week 1 in how many years? 3 years, right?
Yeah, so
he's not used to this.
Well, and he also held out. He didn't play in any of the preseason games, so we saw a lot of that in week 1, where you could tell that there were teams that were sloppy, like the Lions-Cardinals game. Like, both of those teams were terribly sloppy. The Lions' special team was pretty bad. Cam Newton, Dak Prescott, guys we've talked about earlier, just not looking like themselves, because it didn't look like teams were fully prepared for the season to start. And so now, with 1 week under their belt of regular season games, this week is where we start seeing who these teams truly are. So the Vikings and Steelers is another game like the Cowboys and Broncos. This is a good jumping off week for a lot of teams.
To reset the pace.
You know, Broncos won, Cowboys won, Vikings won, Steelers won. So, you know, starting out 2-0.
And for some of these teams in the divisions at their end, they want to start off 2-0.
Yeah, like the Cowboys division, the Eagles start off 2-0, which I don't see that happening. They play Kansas City. But the Eagles are going to keep pace with the Cowboys all season. And so starting off 2-0.
Good little jump.
Yeah,
and if the Vikings want to stay with the Packers, they gotta beat teams like the Steelers.
And the Lions, don't forget them.
Oh yeah, can't forget about your Lions.
I'm sorry, I slipped my mind.
So yeah, I think the Vikings and the Steelers is a really intriguing matchup, just because of, you know, the offense that the Steelers has, and they didn't really show up week 1, and the Vikings played the Saints. And the Saints didn't look, offensively, they didn't look right. They looked like they were still figuring things out. So for both of those teams, I think we get a glimpse at who they
really are.
They truly are. And if Sam Bradford can keep up what he did in week 1, I think this week will go a long way. The other game that, you know, I think we all have our eyes on is that NFC Championship game rematch with the Packers-Falcons. The Falcons struggled against the Bears, eked out a win, and very, very possibly could have lost that game.
The defense wasn't on point that game.
Yeah, neither was the offense. Devontae Freeman was average. Like, he didn't look like the guy that was in the Super Bowl and probably could have won Super Bowl MVP.
or deserving that big contract that he got. Number one running back in the league.
Yeah. So
Julio Jones wasn't blowing up.
Yeah,
either.
so I mean, and they play the Packers, who just had a tough game against Seattle. How do they come back from playing a team like Seattle? And so if the Falcons' defense kind of comes up to par, we could have a really good game on our
I just think
hands.
those sorts of games is just like games that could be like
Playoff previews.
Yeah,
and-
like real tight
Well,
games.
maybe not. Maybe not the Broncos, Cowboys, but or Vikings, Steelers. But all 6 of those teams are teams that we all can see in the playoffs. Like, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Vikings, Falcons, Cowboys, Packers all represent the NFC and the Super Bowl. Well, they wouldn't all do it.
Oh, that's a lot of teams in the Super Bowl, man. I don't think we could do that.
Roy, It's a Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
I just think those games will be real close, or they should be if there ain't no stupid blowouts like the Rams Colts.
Yeah, it should be another good week of football. Close games, nothing. We've got 4 or 5 good games.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's football, man.
There's gonna be plenty to watch.
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy it's back. I don't say that I'm the biggest football fan in the world. Hell, it's probably my 3rd favorite sport, 4th favorite sport.
Oh, speaking of that, I made a bet with my pops on the Giants Cowboys game, so I need to collect. Thanks for reminding me.
How did that remind you?
Football.
Because
I made bets.
my dad is not. He was never a big football fan.
Oh, okay.
But like recently, like the past 3 years, he's just like been all about football, and he's on the Giants nuts. So we always go back and forth when Giants and Cowboys play.
So having Sundays off and being able to just sit and click around Sunday Ticket, I like to choose which game I watch. I don't let Red Zone choose it for me.
You should just put up with the multiple screens.
Yeah, but then I can't listen to the commentary. I'm a nerd. I love listening to the commentary.
Closed caption, dude.
I don't think they close caption every game.
They'll put it in subtitles when Tony Romo is talking, alright?
Just closed caption, picture in picture.
But it was fun to see the NFL back in week 2. Like I've been saying, like I think this is where we truly see the teams start to show their true colors.
We're gonna look for more offense as compared to this last week where it was straight defense. Everyone's picking
Pick six and fumble recoveries.
I don't mind like a defense battling game and stuff, but like
Let's see some offense.
I want to see some offense like, with these guys.
Let's see a shootout somewhere.
With how offenses have become, with so many timing routes, and you have to have the trust in receivers and quarterback, it's easier for a defense to start off the season strong than an offense, because the defense, they just have to follow the receivers. They don't have. I mean, you need to have the play call and play team defense and follow the football, but that's defense hasn't really evolved from the true root of football, and so it's always easier to catch up on defense than it is on offense. So when you're not going to practice, like not playing games and not getting used to your receivers, like I'll use Andrew Luck. That's the example. Andrew Luck hasn't played a football game since January. He hasn't even thrown a football. He missed all of the preseason. He missed week 1. He's out for the foreseeable future. So let's say he comes back week 7. Like, we can't expect him to, in the Colts offense, to just be this. Just be this almighty
just
offense
like
again.
Back.
Yeah, that's just not how it works. Like, there's a reason why some rookie quarterbacks, they go through struggles, because they haven't adapted to size and speed. They haven't adapted to defensive schemes against them, and they're not used to the receivers they're throwing to. So those back shoulder fades that you see, like an Aaron Rodgers and a Jordy Nelson throw, or a Gronk and Brady, like. These are guys who have been playing together for years, practiced together. They understand each other so well that it's just kind of a second nature. It's like, all right, 1, 2. Okay, yeah, Gronk is going to be there now. That's why Brady looked kind of pedestrian in week 1, is Gronk was being guarded by Eric Berry, and he didn't have Edelman, and so he had to use Brandon Cooks and I guess Chris Hogan, but I don't think Chris Hogan's a great wide receiver. He's a speedster.
He dropped a couple balls too.
Yeah, like he's their deep threat, so he just runs go routes.
Which they should be doing with Brandon Cooks too, because he could be another deep threat.
Yeah, but Brandon Cooks got traded from the Saints because he didn't want to be that guy. He wanted to be used as an Antonio Brown, not Chris Hogan, just fly route Ted Ginn kind of receiver. So we'll see. Like these offenses, I think, are all going to get better. Like the Cowboys' offense is going to get better. The Packers' offense is going to get better, and the defenses are just going to have to get better, adjust, maintain,
stay healthy.
Yeah, health is a big part of it all. I look forward to all of these games. So week 1 in the books, week 2 upcoming. We got a month away from the start of the NBA season and a few weeks away from MLB playoffs. We have a lot coming up to discuss. And who knows, maybe I'll actually watch some boxing this weekend and we can talk some Triple G and Canelo.
Say word.
Word. All right. Well, this is the Benchwarmers podcast. Thank y'all for listening. Here's Casey Coggins with Alvin Hebert.
Carmelo in the hoodie.
And Andrew Lara.
See ya.
See y'all next week.
We are bands of a different kind. We'll take your girl, pay you no mind. Stealing hearts is what we do. Watch out, girl.